A top question that people ask when flying into San Jose, Costa Rica is, where am I going to stay while I'm in downtown San Jose? And should I even bother staying there, or should I just move on to my next destination that I'm trying to get to? In today's video, I'm sharing with you an interview with travel expert Diana Hechler, and we're talking through some of the things to consider. And if you're new here, I'm Christine Lozada. I have an entire playlist of helpful Costa Rica videos so that you can have the best vacation possible. And check out our Costa Rica travel packages. More info in the description below. Let's head over to Costa Rica and let's bring in Diana.
So many people fly into San Jose Airport. It's the major airport of Costa Rica. I'm here with Diana. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
I'm Diana Hechler, president of Dtours Travel. I run a boutique travel agency outside of New York City in the Westchester suburbs.
And we have been adventuring around Costa Rica. And my first question for you is, obviously there are options of where you can stay when you come into San Jose. You have a set of options that you normally have as a go-to, and I'd love to hear more about how you chose some of those and where else you've considered.
Yeah, I think that the place I would start is, what is the purpose of being in San Jose? Mm-hmm. Let's say that you are arriving, let's say you're part of a multi-generational trip, and you've got grandma and grandpa, and they're coming from Dallas, Texas, and you've got Susie and Jim, and they're coming from Boston, and then somebody else is coming from Florida. Okay, you really don't want them to immediately transition 3 hours away to a destination where they might spend 3 to 4 days.
Yep.
But they need to gather.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's one thing. It's like you've got people coming from different places.
At different
You
times.
collect in San Jose, and you spend the night in a nice hotel, and the next day you go to wherever you're going. You're going south to Manuel Antonio, or you're going to the beach, or you're going to, up here to La Fortuna, Arenal area. Those all take a couple of hours, so you don't want to split that apart.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you might be arriving at, say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Maybe you've connected someplace, and by the time you get there, it's 4 p.m. All right, Costa Rica is very close to the equator, which means that they don't have nearly the variations in daylight and nighttime that we do in the northeast, say, of the United States, or pretty much in the United States, right? They're further south, so they're in the wintertime and in the summertime, their daylight ends much earlier. Like, we might be thinking, in New York in August or July, it's light until 8:30. Well, that's not true here. It's going to be dark at 6 p.m. So you don't really want to be...
This is some serious travel expert stuff. I didn't really think about it that way.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want to be driving 3 hours in the dark, on a road. I mean, you'll have a driver, of course, because that's my clients always have a driver, but you don't really want to be doing that after a long day of travel. And you don't want to be doing it in the dark. For one thing, don't you want to see the countryside?
Right.
So keep in mind, maybe if you're arriving late in the day, better to overnight here.
Yeah.
And so, we come at this from, what's your situation? What's your situation? Every now and then I'll have somebody who's arriving at 11 and they're going to a place that's maybe 2 hours away, and there are only 2 people. And so, okay, we can do that one for them.
But it's different in every situation.
Every situation.
And that actually makes a lot of sense, because I think about the way I did it, which was arriving in the afternoon, having a moment to rest. And even though I was only flying from South Florida, and that flight's not very long, I was still tired. It was a travel day.
Yes.
We tend to not have the most amount of energy. So it was nice to go to a hotel, to get a massage service, to have a nice sit-down dinner, and then enjoy. We got a lot of different views as we drove our 3 hours the next day out of San Jose.
That's exactly right.
So it was a nice resting point.
Yeah.
And for us, we had stayed at Granó de Oro, which was a fantastic option.
Yeah.
And I know that you generally have I don't want to call it a good, better, best. I guess it maybe the right way to say it is within the budget of the client. Does that sound right?
I think that does sound right. And and also you can choose to be, Granó de Oro is in the city center in San Jose. And so you have access to, if you want to go to the museum, the Gold Museum or the History of Costa Rica Museum, that's right there for you, right? So that's convenient. But yes, we have different price points. So Granó de Oro is, pretty nice, very nice, and probably the most expensive of them. And then you have, if you want an American chain hotel, it could be the Hilton, the Grand Hotel.
Yep.
And if you want something that's not, you don't feel the need to be in the city center, that doesn't really appeal to you, you're here to do soft adventure, you just want a place to relax, and less expensive, that could be the Studio Hotel, which is very nice also. You've got a couple of restaurants within walking distance. But probably most of the time people will eat at that hotel that they're arriving that first night if they're coming in from someplace else. And so you want to make sure you have that.
Hey, I just want to interrupt because if you're getting some value out of this video, cheers that like button, consider subscribing, and make sure you don't miss the entire helpful playlist for Costa Rica travel tips. And check the description. Be a smart traveler. At least check out what we offer, because it's not just travel packages to Costa Rica. It's also custom tailored trips. It can be anything under the sun to truly make it yours. I was surprised. Costa Rica was not as straightforward as I thought it would be to plan this trip. But it was epic because I had the advice of an expert helping me to both plan and advise me on this trip. Check out the info in the description below. You don't want to miss it. All right, let's get back to the episode.
There are a couple of hotels out near the airport, and there's a Marriott out there, and there's, I believe, an Intercontinental. I never use that. I don't think that either of those is the best choice.
Why is that?
I never think staying near an airport is great unless
I agree with that.
You've got a really early morning flight the next day. But let's say that you are, and I'm now ranging a little bit off. Let's say you're at the end of your trip,
right?
Okay, and you're coming back from someplace that's a 2 to 3 hour drive away. Yeah. Maybe you're going to overnight because you've got a flight out at 10 in the morning.
Super early, yeah.
Right.
That might make sense because you're just there to rest.
You're just there to rest and to be in position for your flight the next day. But even there, I might suggest you could do the airport hotel. That's fine. It's kind of ordinary, but it's fine. You know what to expect. It'll be fine. But you could also do Peace Lodge an hour away or Zandari. And those are beautiful resorts that...
Ooh, you have told me a little bit about Peace Lodge.
Yeah.
It sounds absolutely lovely.
It is. It is.
Help us to understand this really cool space.
It's a unique hotel. So it's not everybody has their own little cabana, right? And they put your name on the door. They carve your name on the door for that day, which is fun. But it's a big property and it's very lush. Very, like your vacation is already started if you're staying there, or you're still in it if you're ending there. They have an animal refuge there. So let's say that you didn't have any luck seeing a sloth. You can see sloths at the animal refuge.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
I know. And when I was there also, I was on a little private tour of the animal refuge, and lo and behold, I found myself holding the feeder for the hummingbirds to come. And they were feeding from my hand. I have the picture.
Oh, I loved
I loved it. And then you can see, again, let's say you just didn't have good luck, you didn't see a toucan. Can you say Fruit Loops? It's like, they're the toucans. There they are. But they also are adjacent. The hotel, Peace Lodge, is also adjacent to the Waterfall Garden.
Right.
La Paz Waterfall Garden.
About that.
Right. And that has, I think, seven waterfalls, and they're beautiful. And again, my clients, you're usually on a private tour of that. So you've gone to the annual.
What's that experience like for the waterfalls? Is it like hiking and seeing all these waterfalls?
No, paths, well-marked paths with railings.
Oh, lovely.
You're just walking along, it's... What's a good equivalence? It's as if you were walking in Central Park in some ways, except that you're on walkways alongside flowing rivers. And a lot of times, what will happen is you start up here, you see your 7 waterfalls, and you walk a little way here, and you see another one, and you go down, and you go this. And at the end, our driver's waiting to pick you up, so you don't have to walk all the way back up.
Yeah.
So that makes sense also. Yeah. But the Waterfall Garden, La Paz Waterfall Gardens, are connected to Peace Lodge. I don't know if the hotel owns those gardens or not, but they're a part. And they certainly do run the refuge, the animal refuge.
That sounds so lovely, because one of the things that I was debating for myself, and I didn't want to say anything about it until I actually experienced it, was, well, I mean, you're going to Costa Rica. The main place that people come into is San Jose. Downtown San Jose's got to be cool in some kind of way. And I didn't want to say anything until I actually went there. So I went and spent an afternoon there, went to the market, walked around, saw the main parks, the churches, et cetera, et cetera. And I would personally argue against spending time and staying in downtown San Jose. Like when I listen to you talk about Peace Lodge, I'm like, oh, that?
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
I would love your opinion, because the Grand Hotel is right in downtown, the Curio Hilton property. And I would feel like most Americans would be like, oh, we should stay there. It's familiar. We'll get points. You're right in the heart of downtown. I would actually argue against doing something like that and pushing people towards having a true Costa Rica experience like what you're talking about. But I would love to hear from your opinion, your pros and cons of staying in downtown San Jose at that hotel, because it also seems nice, but I'm hearing that it's older than people think once you are actually staying there.
Yeah, I think that that's true. And as I mentioned earlier, there are some people who really feel very comfortable in American branded hotels. And I get that. Or as you say, they have points. They want to use that. If it's really just a way station for you,
Yeah.
and that makes sense to you, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. It's not what I would start with. And so most of my clients will stay at Granó de Oro, which is this beautiful,
So beautiful. So much character.
right, so much character, so authentic, a former home converted, added onto a little bit with a fantastic bar, right?
I love that bar.
Yeah, me too. I do too. It's a good bar. And a nice dining room with good food.
Yeah.
And just an authentic Costa Rican experience, right? So I'm going to ask you, who are you? Tell me what you are most happy with.
Yeah.
And for everybody, it could be different. So I'm not. My role is always to facilitate what somebody wants to do.
Fair.
I'm going to give you my advice, but if you tell me that you want the Hilton, off to the Hilton you go.
Yeah.
With the first time I ever went to San Jose, I was coming back from my first trip to Costa Rica all those years ago, and we had an early morning flight, and so we overnighted at a city hotel. I don't even know if it's still in business or not. And my kids were kind of at that time they were kind of done, so they stayed in the hotel and played video games, I think. And David,
That's what made them happy.
they had a great time, but they were done. They were like, I don't need to go to the History of Costa Rica Museum.
Yep.
But I'm a history major, So I'm like, David, let's go. So we went. And of course, to me, there's always something interesting in every city to see. Every city, even the grimiest ones, have a half a day worth of something to see.
Yeah.
So I was happy that I went to see that. But I'm a history major. Tell me about Costa Rica. Tell me about when they got rid of their army and gave all the money to education and healthcare. Like, how did that come about? Tell me why is Costa Rica this beacon of stability in this sea of countries that have had real political problems?
Yeah.
El Salvador and Guatemala, and Honduras. I mean, these are places with a lot of political instability. Costa Rica is different than all of that. It's very safe. People speak English here. People are thriving here. So did I go to the museum? I wanted to learn about that. So somebody who has that sensibility and says, I don't want to go to a country and not know anything about it, yes, they would possibly benefit by going to that. And there's also a gold museum and a jade museum.
Yeah.
There are things to do. And you said you went to the market.
I did.
Right.
Which is nice because from that location of a hotel, you can walk there, but it's relatively very easy. Plus, a hotel like Granó de Oro can help you with transportation. Plus, there's Uber available in Costa Rica, which I didn't realize until now, to be able to take you down there where you can have a different experience, nicer depending on how you define nice. But for me, having the character of Granó de Oro was really interesting.
Yeah.
It was unique. And also one of the things that was most telling to me was when we were dining at the restaurant, I had asked, what % of the people here are locals versus tourists? And it was 50-50.
Yeah.
And so it really is, in my experience there, a more local experience and something that's a little bit more unique.
Yeah, I think so too. And again, it's a house, so it's rambling.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you saw all of it. There are parts with, an interior courtyard and a fountain. There are old, historic photos on the walls. So to me, yes, that says authenticity. I love that. That is my number one choice to say. Yeah, love it.
I think you have a few ideas now of where you could potentially stay in downtown San Jose, Costa Rica, if you choose to stay there. Don't forget, check the info in the description below, check out our Costa Rica travel packages and what we offer, because we might have the advice that you need to have the epic Costa Rica trip that you've always wanted. Make sure you check out the entire playlist. There's so many more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao.